Всем привет! Вы на канале Синего Уголка, и это наш ночной стрим. Да. Как водится в Синем Уголке, я провел очень пьяные выходные, и только к вечеру смог оклематься, спустя 3,5 часа после того, как изначально должен был быть стрим. Плюс, я же болел. Меня давно не было, но все, меня уже выписали, я готов к совершениям, к стримам. Погнали! Сегодня у нас новиночка, которую я ждал с самого момента, как только на нее наткнулся. Наткнулся я там какого-то товарища англоязычного, у него подборка была стратегий, которая должна выйти, и я увидел видео этой игры. Оказалось, то, что она уже на Патреоне какое-то время тусила. Вот. И что меня еще больше обрадовало, что она в ранний доступ вот-вот выходит. То есть я ее месяц назад нашел. И прям, сидел дни считал. Ой, уж многообещающая игра. 3D космос. Реальная физика. Красивая музыка. Шикарная система повреждений. В общем, все как надо. Все как надо. А самый еще один интересный момент, который меня удивил, то, что, оказывается, разработчик, он офицер военно-морского флота. Вот так вот. В всяком случае, так на Твиче написано. Ой, на Твиче, на Твиттере. Ладно, что, давайте. Игру я еще не запускал толком. Ну, то есть запускал, но там буквально ничего не успел поделать, потому что жена приехала, надо было с ней побыть. Вот, а дальше на день рождения ехать. И... Так, ладно, давайте сначала. Что, самое главное, это, конечно же, надо настроить эмблему нашего флота. No badge. Но я думаю, что-то мне подсказывает, что можно будет еще свои добавлять. Ладно, давайте у нас будет какой-нибудь а-ля рыцарский орден. Из того, что здесь представлено, мне нравится вот это и это. Эй, ну конечно, да. Так, ship names. Нам нужен обязательно еще префикс придумать. Это будет непросто, Тем более, когда я в глубоком одиночестве сижу и стримлю это. Да. Пока никто меня не балует, но ничего. Я понимаю, я слишком поздно это все начал делать. Время-то позднее, завтра понедельник. Но, ребят, как всегда, прошу меня сориентировать по звуку. Все ли хорошо? Как видите, у меня теперь еще и стойка микрофона другая. Должна быть получше. Во всяком случае, так говорит Вальтер. Сегодня в стриме мне помогает отличный напиток «Свекольная дичь». И это не реклама, если что. Просто штука реально интересная. Борщ с чесночком. Так, примари. Страйп. Что, классику, что ли, будем? Да. Чтобы придумать-то... Ну что ж, блин. Сложный выбор, сложный. Ой, надо придумать сокращение. Сокращение. АНС, нет. Как АНС, интересно, расшифровывается? Ну, С это явно шип. Василий Мазур, здорово, как раз вовремя. Только начал, решая очень тяжелую задачу. Как назвать префикс для моих кораблей? Прям очень. Не, я уже не болею, меня выписали. А пью я сегодня свекольную дичь. О, как в четверг выписали, прям во все тяжкие пошел. Так, ну что такое? Что вы... Называем мы префикс. Префикс кораблей. То есть, например, у британцев у них ХМС, Her Majesty, шип. Если я ничего не путаю. Надо какое-то сокращение придумать. Blue Corner БКС, что ли? Blue Corner Ship. Давайте так. Или Сочный. Сочный. Так, ну давайте... Что такое? Русский. БКС пока сделаем. Блин, тогда... Какая у нас там? Блин, кстати, надо посмотреть. Наверняка можно закинуть эмблемы. Где-то эмблемы есть. И тогда мы сейчас... Сейчас. Управление... Локальные файлы, может быть, здесь есть. Ассеты, ресурсы, бейджики. Есть бейджики. И в чем они? В PNG. А что это значит? Значит это, что у меня тоже есть эмблема нашего канала. Сейчас мы ее туда быстренько закинем. Да, сейчас корабли назовем. Тут, то есть кастомизация есть кораблей. Надо называть корабли, соответственно. Ретакума будет у нас. Так, сейчас. Блок материалы. Эмблемка-то где? Синий уголок лога. Так, сейчас. Синий уголок, лого Twitch. Сейчас. Мы, как всегда, на самом важном застряли. На выборе лога. Так. Ага. Это не то, что я хотел. Или ладно уж, что мы время-то тратим, правильно? Да. Не могу найти, в общем. Ладно, забьем потом этим займусь. Василий Мазур пишет, взял соус чим-чим с чили и чесноком. Вкусно, даже маме понравился. Слушай, я бы с удовольствием тоже попробовал бы такой. Так, ну что тут у нас? Соответственно, моды будет. Все будет очень круто. Флит Эдитор. Да, но мы сейчас будем как бы обучалку проходить. Обучение, потому что игра очень серьезная. Есть модули, как видите. Борьба за живучесть даже будет. Так. Бренд де Сема. Так. Так, ладно, нам сюда еще явно рано. Давайте синглплеер, туториал. Надо разбираться, как играть. Ну, 6 уроков. Давайте, погнали. Я думаю, мы будем в эту игру возвращаться и возвращаться. Тем более надо будет... У меня план подбить Вальтера еще, чтобы он купил. Чтобы мы устроили хороший сетевой замес. Так, Recommendation, Missing. Welcome, Bradford, Commander. АНС Small Beginnings и АНС Dusty Tom у нас под нашим командованием. Так, МК-1 вооружен МК-262 в единичном. Так, установка помех. 2 лончера ракет. Так, а тут радар, 2 установки, 1 лончер. Ладно, погнали. Игра, кстати, стоит божески. 435 рублей, что ли. Так, окей.
Let's get you familiar with the view controls first. Hold down the left mouse button and drag the mouse to angle your view. Now use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out.
Красота.
And most importantly, moving the view. Use W, A, S, and D to pan the view. E and C will raise and lower your view in the battle space, respectively. And that's it. Let's move on to the actual interface. We're going to select one of our ships now, so sit tight.
Receiving.
You can select a ship either by clicking on its icon in the battle space, selecting it in the ship list, or pressing its corresponding number key indicated in the ship list.
Угу, прикольно. Я, кстати, надеюсь, раз тут моды будут, что можно будет зафигачить корабли из Звездных войн, было бы вообще замечательно. Ну или вообще из других каких-то вселенных. С Homeworld того же. Для особых извращенцев из Стартрека. Игра, говорю, да, она недорого стоит, поэтому советую. То есть, на удивление, очень недорого. 435 рублей.
You've selected a ship.
Если
Now, if
вспоминать
you want to
последние
focus your
релизы,
view on
то
the
это
ship, you
прям
can use the F
подарок.
key. You
Подарок.
can also do this by double tapping the ship's number key to both select and focus on the ship at the same time. When focused, your view will automatically track the selecting unit until you move the view.
At the ready, Commander.
Send traffic.
Угу. Так, окей.
This ship in particular is the Rains
Ой, надо
class
все
frigate.
запоминать.
It's the most common warship in the fleets, with a generous balance of speed, agility, armoring, and some good room for a good mix of support modules and weapon systems.
Кстати, не прикрывает мое... не, мое лицо ничего не перекрывает, прям идеально стоит.
You'll also see at the bottom of the screen a readout of the selected ship. This is the ship information bar, and it's a list of the status of modules, weapons, current orders, and the general posture of the warship.
Угу. Ну вот, кстати, видите. Все наши модули. Самые важные.
This window is the damage control status board, and it'll be one of the most important items when in battle, as it shows the condition of all modules on the ship as a color gradient. Green means functional and undamaged, while red means heavy damage. A destroyed module or weapon is indicated in gray.
Так, отлично, значит, все работает.
Damage control is a whole can of worms, so we won't be covering that for now. Let's move on. Next, the mount status display. This shows the status of all external mounts on the hull, which could be weapons, defense systems, or utilities.
Так, хорошо.
Currently, all of our mounts
Вооружение и
show green with a
прочая
black slash,
нагрузочка.
indicating they're operational but idle. If you're ever confused at what a color or a symbol means, you can hover over the color status icon with your mouse to see what's going on. Lastly, we have the posture controls. These define how the ship will operate. From here, you can
control.
control maneuvers, which sensor systems are enabled, and toggle specific defensive systems.
Все по-взрослому, сразу видно. Мастер... ну, человек, разбирающийся, делал. Напомню то, что разработчик офицер военно-морских сил. Александр, привет.
Right now, I've disabled most of these, so
По
we don't
записям
toggle
боев,
something
которые я
by
смотрел, мне на
mistake.
самом деле очень
But we'll
понравилось,
go over
очень
these
зрелищно
systems
выглядит.
later.
Так.
So you know how the interface works, but what about issuing an order to a ship?
Так, отлично.
The
Давай,
ANS
как?
Small Beginnings is reporting that their drives are online, so we'll get that frigate into a nearby position. Select the ANS Small Beginnings and open the action menu by right-clicking anywhere in the battle space.
Окей.
On the left side of the menu, select the Move or Movement submenu to see all available movement commands. The POS or Position command will order the warship to move to a position and hold there. Select position and move the Small Beginnings within 500 meters of Waypoint Atlas.
Move to position, orbit position. Drive course, hold heading, так. Roll ship. Form with ship.
This is the dial widget, and it will allow you to accurately select position on the plane the ship is currently on by moving the cursor. You can left-click to confirm an order, or right-click to cancel. To change the elevation, hold left control and move your cursor up or down. You can also issue waypoints by holding left shift and marking a path. The order will only be confirmed when left shift is released and you click again. Don't forget, if you need to get a better view, you can still hold the left mouse button to angle your view even while the dial is open. When you're ready, lay in a course for the Small Beginnings to position itself near Waypoint Atlas.
Send your traffic. How can we help today, Commander? At the ready, Commander.
Reporting. Aye, aye. Proceeding.
Так, ну-ка. Меняем позицию. Василий Мазур пишет, еще похоже на Nexus Юпитер инцидент. Да, была такая игра.
Got you 5 by 5.
Так, а этот товарищ что, никуда не полетит, что ли?
Aye, aye, Commander. We're moving. Send your traffic. Aye, aye. Full power.
In the future, you can also use the M key as a shortcut to issue move to position orders.
О, так удобней. Просто через М-ку.
Now let's talk formations. Because only one ship can be commanded at a time, formations are crucial for grouping your forces and keeping management simple.
Так, отлично,
The
давайте.
ANS Dusty Tome is reporting they're ready for orders, so we'll have them fall in with the small beginnings. Select the Dusty Tome and open the action menu.
Send your traffic.
The formation command can be found under the Move submenu and is issued with the FRM or formation button. You can also use the keyboard shortcut left shift plus F key.
Чё она сказала, блин?
We first have to designate a ship as the guide ship. This ship will be the actual leader for the formation, and all warships following the guide ship will try to copy their current orders. Select the ANS small beginnings to mark it as the guide.
Receiving.
Next, you'll need to designate a position for the Dusty Tome to take up in formation. The dial functions exactly like the movement command, but it's relative to the guide ship. Pick a position for the Dusty Tome to keep station on. The Dusty Tome will move into formation, and they'll try to follow the guide ship as best they can.
At the ready, Commander.
Send traffic.
Так, сейчас, погодите.
Receiving.
Send your traffic.
Так, а если мне нужно поменять ему позицию? Ладно. Сейчас попробуем. Я, по ходу дела, выстроил так у них построение, что ведомый, то есть ведущий корабль идет чуть сзади.
At the ready, Commander.
Надо поменять.
Understood. Forming up.
Так. Название питья, да, сейчас скину. Ну, или не сейчас, а попозже. Хотя ладно, давайте сейчас скину, пока все равно корабли летят. Скинул все в Дискорде. Так, Василий Мазур пишет, мне было обидно, в пятницу выхожу, а бар закрыт под работой. Хотел бахнуть крафта. Да, это проблема. Так, ну все, мы теперь выстроили нормально. Ну-ка.
On it.
Да, все зашибись. Красота.
If the guide ship is moving when the ship is ordered to form up with it, the guide will automatically slow down to allow the other ship to catch up. You can have as many ships as you want in a formation, but keep in mind that there are drawbacks to having a lot of closely packed ships, beyond white-knuckled helmsmen. Spacing is key, and sometimes you need to split up. Ships near each other create a larger radar return, making stealth and evasion more difficult and allowing the enemy to detect you at a longer range. But we won't go over sensor coverage just yet. You can see the structure of your fleet and its formations in the ship list, which dynamically updates to show which ships are in formation with each other.
Reporting.
Got you 5 by 5.
Orders can be issued to your entire formation at once by opening the action menu in formation mode. This can be done by using left shift plus right click with any ship in the formation selected.
Open and chemu formation mode. Shift. Right.
The action menu will indicate it's in formation mode by displaying the number of ships the order will be delivered to. For formation mode, don't worry about which ship you have selected, as the order will be delivered to all of them. Easier that way. Movement orders are a special case, as they will always be routed to the guide ship, and the whole formation will follow them. Now let's get the whole formation moving in a direction. The Drive Course command, found in the Move submenu as the CRS or Course button, will order a ship or formation to travel in a certain direction indefinitely. Select the Drive Course command now. Do not issue the order just yet. When it comes to picking directions in space, you'll use the Sphere widget. It's similar to the Dial widget from before, but allows for choosing directions more uniformly. It can be a little tricky at first, so take your time and get a feel for it. Moving your mouse cursor around will position the target on the surface of the sphere. By holding left control, you will log the direction and be able to change the radius. This is useful for weapons, as you'll see in a later lesson, but for choosing a course, we really only care about direction. Know that the cursor will remain on one side of the sphere, even if you pan the view. The initial side is determined by where your mouse was relative to the ship when you first opened the widget. If you need to switch the side, hold left control and draw the radius back through the center until it's on the opposite side. Get some practice moving the cursor around now, as selecting a direction or position in 3D space can be very disorienting at first. When you're ready, issue the order to get the formation underway in the given direction.
Aye, aye.
The formation will now drive the course until told to do otherwise. Careful not to lose attention and let them get too far. We've had an incident in the past, and I'm not going to fill out more paperwork.
Что-то мы их как-то закинули не туда.
No, take us in.
How can we help today, Commander?
Lastly, let's break the dusty tome back off from the formation. To do so, all you need to do is select the ship and issue a standard movement order to it. That will override its order to keep in formation.
How can we help today, Commander? Aye, aye, Commander.
Well, congratulations! That completes your first lesson in maneuvering ships in the battle space. We'll cover more
Вот мы и
advanced topics like
разобрались.
weapons employment and tactical view in the next lesson. I'll see you back at the academy.
Так, Александр пишет, иконки у них только у ее, все такое. Все-таки над интерфейсом неплохо бы поработать. Так, Василий Мазур пишет, до вторника, до второго бара переться было далеко, и надо было кое-что купить до 8. В итоге взял Ингельман Бордо. Да. И дальше пишет еще, модеры и разрабы все поправят. Да.
Send traffic.
Игра только в ранний доступ вышла, поэтому у нее все впереди. Бэмс, победили. Дальше. Waypoint. Weapons. Давайте постреляем.
Now comes my favorite part. Weapons
Да,
and how
отлично,
to use
давай.
them. Don't worry about that red contact over in the distance. It's a decommissioned frigate that's been tugged out here for target practice.
Где он? Где он? Блин, а как, интересно, карту-то включить? Так, окей.
Before we get to weapons, we need to learn about the tactical view. You can switch between tactical and normal views by pressing spacebar.
О! Вот это главное. Так, окей.
The view controls here are the same as before, but you can zoom out much further and get a better idea of the situation in the battle space. Take a moment to look around now. The tactical view provides you with a lot of information that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. It's your primary way of knowing what's happening around you. You'll be using it a lot.
Yes, Commander.
Send traffic.
The range plane shows you both elevation of targets and their distance from a given point. When no ships are selected, it sits at the center of the battle space.
Так, окей.
Select the small beginnings now to see how the plane changes.
We hear you, Command.
Take note that the range plane moved to center on that ship. It'll also track with it. All ranges will be indicated relative to your currently selected ship. Notice that the line from the enemy track to the range plane has a slight curve. This is because elevation and range are not directly related, so the contact distance on the plane must be projected onto a sphere. This layout makes it easy to determine the range of a target by looking at the position of the plane relative to your selected ship's capabilities.
Так.
The dotted lines represent maximum ranges of your ship's systems. Red indicates offensive range, blue is sensor range, and defensive systems are green.
Что-то у нас с defensive все очень плохо, по ходу дела.
Receiving. Receiving.
Да, по ходу дела у нас нету вещей для борьбы.
We hear you, Command.
While there are common ship configurations found throughout the fleet, most ships have some unique capability. The ANS Small Beginnings is configured with 2 Mark 62 twin-barrel 120mm cannons and a 16-cell vertical missile launcher. I'm unlocking your weapon systems now, so let's put gunnery to the test.
Василий
with some
Николин,
tried and
здорово,
true
как раз
naval fire.
вовремя проходим обучение. Мгм.
There are several ways to target weapons. The fastest and simplest is by shooting directly at the sensor track. To do this, right-click the red sensor track to bring up the action menu in track mode. The action menu will indicate it is in track mode by displaying the targets and track number in the space. It will automatically open the weapons list if there are any weapons on the ship. The active targeting mode is shown at the top of the list. Right now we are in track mode indicated by TRK. We'll talk about other modes later. Select the cannons from the weapon list and light up the target.
We can take him.
Receiving.
Definitely seeing some hits there. Looking good.
Helm, address the formation. We've got him now.
If the guns can't hit a target, the ship will automatically roll itself to get currently active weapon on angle on the target. This is called unmasking.
А, стоп, у нас в этот раз что ли? Нет, есть же орудие, чего он не стреляет?
Right now you'll notice that our fire is pretty inaccurate. This is because our targeting solution isn't using a fire control lock. The red dot jumping around near the track shows where our sensors think the target is. Let's improve our targeting accuracy by locking the target with our bullseye fire control radar,
Так,
located
окей.
on the top of the ship.
Давай.
To do this, right-click the track and select the LCK, or lock, at the top of the action menu. You can also use the X key keyboard shortcut.
Yes, Commander. Now let's finish him.
Notice the new icon on the target. This indicates that the target is locked on and is providing much better accuracy and increased update rate on the target. Remember, not all ships have fire control radar, and you'll only be able to get a lock with ships that have them equipped.
Так, радар у
Send
нас.
traffic.
Awaiting your orders, Commander.
Right now we are
Okay.
shooting armor-piercing, AP, shells at the target. Armor-piercing is effective on armor plating, but will only deal damage to internal components directly in the shell's path once it punctures the hull. While any damage is a good thing, we can deal even more damage by switching the shell type to high explosive, dealing damage to a wide area in the target's internals.
Так, как нам поменять тип
We use high
снарядов?
explosive, HE shells, against targets of appropriate size or smaller, or larger targets with heavy armor damage. HE shells cause much less damage to armor, but penetration will explode inside and do damage to all nearby components and personnel. To switch to HE shells, first open the action menu in track mode by right-clicking the track.
We hear you, Command.
Так, ну, weapon. Ага.
Standing by.
Ну все, я поменял. Чё он не хочет?
Yes, Commander.
Send traffic.
Так, все, меня
Quiet.
поменял
Command's
вроде.
on the line.
Почему не контролируется? Блин, что-то ничего не понимаю, ребят.
Negative. That target is out of our range.
Standing by.
We are en route, Commander.
Непонятно. Давайте поближе подлетим, попробуем.
In the weapons list, next to the cannons entry, click on the ammunition icon to open the ammunition list. Click the 120mm HE shell option to select it. The ammo switch is now pending and will only be executed if a new fire order is given.
Send traffic.
To begin firing the new ammo type, click the weapon group to confirm the ammunition change. Now we'll select the small beginnings and watch what it's up to.
Awaiting
The mounts display shows the ship's cannons are firing and cycling. When the yellow bar is filled, the cannon will fire again. We can also see that the fire controls radar is solid green, indicating it's active and it has an active lock-on.
Solution locked in. Send traffic. Eyes on target.
Так, ну-ка. Ничего моего.
Send traffic.
We hear you.
Here's the active orders list, showing an icon for each order the ship is currently executing. Right now we have an order to fire our guns and an order to lock the target.
Так, хорошо.
Have the small beginnings hold fire and break their lock-on by right-clicking on the order icons to cancel them. And that's the basics of gunnery. The key thing is to know what ammunition to use, especially as your target takes more damage to warrant the big stuff. But what if you don't have a sensor track? Take a look at your ship's hulls, and you'll notice the 4 white octagons on the sides. These are radar panels, and provide coverage for their respective sector of space. There's also a central control module inside the ship, which track what these
Даже
panels
ребята
see.
сказать не знаю. Не знаю, что и сказать.
When panels are damaged or destroyed, you'll lose coverage in that area. Similarly, if the radar controller is destroyed, you'll lose all coverage in all directions. Obviously, fighting blind is not a good thing. But that won't put you out of the fight just yet. Direct fire weapons like cannons can fall back on visual targeting, where the crew will provide targeting data to your guns using onboard optics. Some weapons like missiles can't do this, however.
Awaiting your orders, Commander.
I've ordered your crew to disable the radar. Take a moment and observe what happens. You don't want the first time you're operating without radar to be the real deal. With sensors disabled, you will now see visual contacts when you have one of your ships selected, and nothing when no ship is selected. Visual contacts are only useful to the ship that actually sees the target, unlike the sensor track, which was shared across all ships. If you don't see anything, you'll need to move within visual range, about 3,200 meters. I've created a marker in the general area for your reference. That won't happen in actual battle.
Yes, Commander. We hear you, Command. We'll be there before you know it. We hear you, Command. Awaiting your orders, Commander.
Так.
We'll be there before you
Да что ж такое-то, блин? Конечно, тяжело прицелиться.
Course laid in. Turning up the engines now.
О, вроде прицелились, нормально.
You can fire on visual contacts the same way you did with the sensor tracks. Use visual targeting to fire at the target ship with the small beginnings guns again.
Engaging.
Огонь! Куда он стреляет? Что, блин, происходит?
What are our orders, Commander? Target confirmed.
In a situation like this, you can imagine things are not going too well for you, but you'll at least still be a threat, so don't feel too cut up if your sensors go dark.
Селимазов спрашивает меня, что я хотел сказать. Да я не знаю, просто комментарии какие-то надо давать. Я прям сижу, молчу, поглощен, боюсь что-то важное упустить.
Now missiles. The ships in this fleet carry two variants of the SGM-2 series anti-ship cruise missiles, the Thunderhead and the Hurricane.
Так, отлично.
The
давайте
Hurricane is a
ракеты.
command-guided missile, which means it is guided to the target by a launching ship. If it misses the target, it will come back around and try again until it runs out of fuel, is shot down, or finally hits the target. Command missiles are very difficult to avoid. The only way to defeat them without destroying the missile itself is by destroying the launching ship or jamming its sensors or communication.
Так,
Shoot the archer, as we say. The downside is that the Hurricane must be shot at a sensor track. If you lose a track, the Hurricane will be useless. Let's launch 3 Hurricane missiles at the target. Start by opening the action menu in track mode on the target. Now select the SGM-225 Hurricane with the weapons list. This will queue up a single missile shot at the target and leave
Ну-ка,
you with an active
полетели.
track selection widget. Multiple missiles can be fired with a single order using the left Alt key. Hold the left Alt key and click on the target to add one more missile per click. The number of queued missiles is shown next to your mouse cursor. To issue the order, you can either click the left mouse button with the left Alt key released, or if you don't want to add another missile, you can press the Enter key to submit as is.
What are our orders, Commander?
что такое? Давай еще. Мне надо 3.
Send traffic. Preparing to launch.
Полетели.
Receiving. Solution locked in.
Quiet. Command's on the line.
Так. Shift ADD 5 target.
On the way.
Давайте попробуем.
Missiles are one of your most limited and precious resources, second only to the ships themselves.
2,
They are
3.
extremely powerful, but extremely scarce. You'll need to know when to use them, as it can't be replenished under normal circumstances outside of a port.
Жуткое дело, мы этот корабль, по-моему, уже разнесли полностью.
A frigate like the Rains will be crippled by only 2 or 3 missile hits, but in a real fight it will often take more than that to penetrate an enemy's point defense, which are a serious threat to hurricanes as they tend to fly in a direct path. The ANS Dusty Tome is carrying a different missile loadout. Select the ship now so we can take a look at it.
Send traffic.
This frigate is carrying Thunderheads, an active radar-guided missile, which means it carries its own method for finding targets, allowing it to seek targets by itself. It can be targeted in the same way as the Hurricane missiles, but once it has left the tube, it's entirely autonomous. When it reaches the end of its path, it will activate its onboard seeker and begin searching for a target. The greatest benefit of active missiles is that they can be sent on complex waypoint paths, allowing for multi-angle strikes and even hitting targets behind asteroids. But we'll cover that when you get to your advanced missile trials. For now, let's just fire 3 Thunderhead missiles at the target as we did before with the Hurricanes.
Receiving. Solution locked in.
Полетели.
As easy as it is to use active radar missiles, there are some downsides to their operation.
Так, эти что-то никуда-то не туда полетели. А, все. Ты смотри.
The first is that the missile must find a target within the cone of its seeker in order to track and kill it. The second shortcoming is that active seekers are easy to decoy with chaff and other countermeasures, meaning more missiles need to be used in order to score a hit, as active missile radars are particularly sensitive to jamming and decoys. But that should do it for your weapons trial. I'll have Fleet Logistics retrieve the dummy ship, and I recommend looking into all the weapons when you get your chance. I'll see you at the Academy.
Все, расстреляли мы корабль. Одни пробоины. Тут на самом деле очень крутая еще система. Система, когда вот корабль гибнет, у него начинается эвакуация. Очень круто выглядит. Спасательные камеры вылетают. Прям зрелищно. Все хорошо. Так, ну что, следующее обучение. Damage Control. Будем бороться сейчас с за выживание корабля. Все те же корабли, тот же набор.
Alright, ready for something really nerve-wracking? For as long as you're out here in space, it's inevitable that you're going to take a few hits over the course of your career.
Так.
In reality, the odds of us coming out unscathed in an engagement are exceedingly low. If you want to stay fit and combat effective, you're going to need to learn how to repair damage. Let's begin. To start,
Давайте
select the
начнем.
ANS Small Beginnings.
Small
I've had my
beginning.
boys set up some simulated scenarios for us to cover. Just stay cool. You'll start seeing some damage come up. For the purpose of this training exercise, I've just simulated damage in 3 of the Small Beginnings subsystems. Mount 1, the main radar controller, and the Combat Information Center. In the ship list, you'll notice a number of new icons have appeared. The orange number indicates the number of damaged components with active debuffs, which affects the performance of those damaged components.
Так, у нас пожар.
If there's a fire, it will be indicated here. Obviously, a fire in an enclosed space is a serious threat to ship survival. It'll slowly damage the ship over time, and it'll also slow down the working speed of damage control teams. This red number indicates the components have been damaged to the point where they are no longer functional. This also includes components which have been completely destroyed. The red chevrons indicate the ship's command system are not operational, meaning they are no longer receiving any orders. Open the action menu to see what it looks like. The text of the center of the action menu will display "Not Receiving" when a ship can't receive orders. This is because the CIC, or Combat Information Center, has taken critical damage. You may have warships with backup command systems that allow maneuvering orders to be carried out while the CIC is disabled. This allows you to get your ship to safety and effect repairs. However, this ship isn't fitted with that. Going back to the ship's status display, we can see the damaged components and their locations. By clicking on the status display, we can open the damage control board. Do so now. The damage control board will show all of the components installed on the ship and their current status. You can use the filter buttons at the top to suppress things that you don't want to see. Your damage control officer will automatically prioritize repairs based on how important a component is. For example, your reactor and CIC are going to be priority 1, as they're critical to the operation of the ship. If you have your own priorities, you can click on one of the items on the board to prioritize it manually. Prioritized items are highlighted in blue. Keep in mind that changing priorities frequently can cause teams to move around a lot, which wastes valuable time that could be used for repairs. Damage control teams are stationed in a DC locker and will move from there when damage is taken. It'll take time for repairs to start, as the teams need to get themselves and their tools to the casualty. You can see the progress of the damage control teams by the gauge filling up on their token. Hazards like fires are their first priority before they'll begin repairing actual damage, as these can deal damage over time. The important thing to remember is that once a component has taken damage below 90%, it can never be fully repaired back to 100%. Maximum repair is 10% more than the lowest integrity level the component had at the time of repairs. We'll let your teams work before we continue. Let's do 2 more drills. The first is a component restoration exercise.
Ну давайте.
The CIC is now destroyed, with the integrity at 0%. Repair teams won't begin repairs to get it operational again, without you explicitly telling them to do so. You'll need to get it repaired. In the damage control board, find the CIC and use left shift plus left click to order your repair teams to start working on it. Once it's repaired, the ship will be able to receive orders again.
Так, все, поставили задачу.
This must be done manually, because restoring a component is a time and equipment-intensive process. The equipment to do so is stored in the DC locker, and each locker only holds enough materials for 1 or 2 restorations.
Василий Никулин пишет, слишком много информации за раз, внимание начинает уплывать. Да, информации прям очень много. Но я говорю, человек как бы сознанием дела подходил.
Although the CIC is disabled and this ship can't receive orders to move or fire, you will always be able to prioritize damage control to attempt repairs. But this means that your repair teams are extremely vulnerable. They're moving into parts of the ship that are actively taking enemy fire and could very well be killed. If all the personnel on a team are killed in action, you'll lose the team completely. If you run out of repair teams, you won't be able to repair at all. You can't replenish teams outside of a port, so keep that in mind. We'll wait for your teams to finish their work, then we'll continue. Now that the CIC is restored, the Small Beginnings is ready to receive orders again. After the teams reboot all of the computers, that is. Lastly, we'll do something a little dangerous, a catastrophic scenario. Most component damage is localized, and will only affect the part of the ship where the damage was received. On the other hand, catastrophic scenarios are situations which, left unchecked, will eventually take the whole ship down. These situations include reactor overloads, magazine explosions, and fuel line fires, just to name a few. Your repair teams will automatically move to prevent catastrophic damage, so there's not much you can do except watch. Just get a feel for what it will look like. Your damage control officer will always prioritize repairs for a situation like this.
Блин, минута
The ship's
44.
survival always comes first. Notice the flashing warning icon in the ship's list. Below the icon is an estimated countdown before the situation gets out of control. If you don't know what's wrong, you can hover over the warning icon to see a tooltip. Out of all of the catastrophic damage you might see, reactor overloads are the most deadly. Your teams know how to work with a damaged reactor, but fires and other hazards can make it a nearly impossible task to complete. Should the reactor go critical, you'll see a reactor bloom with a blast radius of about 1.5 kilometers. Standard doctrine states to move all of the friendly warships out of the danger radius of the ship with an impending reactor overload. Be careful around enemy wrecks as well. Your weapons could have damaged the reactor housings, and you'll get little to no warning before they go off. But Commander, that's it for your damage control trials. Just keep an eye on your teams and be smart about their movements, and you'll come
Фух,
out just
всё,
fine.
напугали нас.
Remember, the ship's survival always comes first.
Напугали. Колосс Колосов, привет. А как? Не сплю, потому что обещанный стрим надо провести. Давно я это не делал. О, вот потому, ребятки, с вами. Потому что хотел очень сильно в этот проект поиграть. Хочется разобраться в нем. Так, сенсор и Electronic Warfare. Погнали. Все те же корабли. Еще 3 обучения, блин. Хочется уже в бой.
It's critical for you to understand your sensors and the things that affect them, as they act as your eyes in the battle space. After all, you can't shoot what you can't see. But now it's time to learn how they actually work. How to evade detection while spotting the enemy, and how to fool your opponent is absolutely paramount to a successful engagement. Let's begin.
Cheers. Лена Джи, привет!
Select the ANS Small Beginnings.
Приветствую на ночном стриме. Ваше здоровье, ребят. Так, давайте Small Beginning.
The first thing we'll talk about is your signature size and methods of signature control.
Лена, это не минералка, это свекольная дичь. Где он тут? Оп-оп-оп, свекольная дичь. Пиво со вкусом свеклы и чеснока. Очень крутая штука, мне нравится. Много не выпить. Как, в принципе, и все крафты со всякими интересными вкусами.
Active sensors like radar detect enemy ships by bouncing radio waves off of
Так,
them.
да, мы их
The
задетектили.
physical size of your ship, combined with the angle of surface and the cross-sectional area from the viewing angle, affect the size of the returned energy. In other words, the same ship will appear on sensors at a longer range if its broadside is facing the enemy versus being bow on. The smallest radar cross-section for the Rain's frigate, for example, is from above and below the port and starboard stern. You can see the size of your signature by hovering over the signature summary on the ship information bar. There are other contributing factors to the size of your signature, including what modules are active and how many ships are nearby.
Так, ну.
Right now, there is another ship nearby, which is boosting the size of the radar return and making it so the enemy can see us at a longer range.
Да-да, Колосс Колосов. Пивко со вкусом борща. Очень крутое.
Let's lower our footprint. Move the small beginnings more than 250 meters away from
Самая
the
беда
dust
то, что я его с
so
лета
you
не
won't
мог найти.
contribute to each other's signatures.
Вот когда
Don't move towards
заболел,
in. We wanna keep
там
our
с
current
больницы
range.
возвращался. И это, ну... Зашел в пивнушку, чтобы этих каких-нибудь орешков взять. Но на самом деле я за шавухой зашел, и там попутно еще в пивнуху завернул, и там оно. И я такой, хо-хо! Сразу себе 5 штук. Все, что было из холодильника, забрал. На данный момент уже 3 осталось, это 4-я. То есть я первую выпил, вторую, это 2-я, да, которую я выпил, там еще 3 штуки есть. Так, смогли Мозен 250. Move the NS small beginning at least 250 метров away from the Достом. Ну окей.
Standing by. Send your traffic. Moving to that position.
Так, ну. Василий Мазур пишет, мне зашло томатное с корнем хрена. О, кстати, это какое? Скинь название. С хреном я еще не
If you
пробовал.
hover over the signature summary with your mouse, you will see the nearby ships modifier is gone, reducing our overall
Лена пишет, прошли годы, а Егор все не выкупаешь, что колосс это Леха. Да я все понял, я знал. Поэтому и начал говорить, что сколько у меня еще в запасах, чтобы при следующей встрече дать вам заценить это пиво. Так что не надо тут. Так, сигнатур summary mouse.
It's good, but we'll need to do better if we want to hide ourselves from the enemy. On the ship list, the yellow icon indicates that the ship is spotted by the enemy's sensors and is being tracked. Similarly, a red crosshair here would show that the ship is locked by the enemy's fire control radar. We have a good set of tools to reduce our radar footprint even further. Let's see what we can do to shake the enemy off. This
Так,
switch
что
will toggle
можем
our radar
сделать?
systems off, greatly reducing our footprint. This switch disables our communication suites, which can provide a modest reduction in our signature size.
Ага.
Go ahead and turn off both of these now, and see how it affects our signature size.
Вырубаем наш радар, чтобы не палиться, и communication тоже. Пау.
You may be surprised to see that even with your radars off,
Сигнатура
we're
наша
still seeing tracks.
минимизирована.
This is because the ANS Dusty Tome still has the radars and comms on, and is transmitting tracks to the small beginnings, sharing their own data. Hover over Signature Summary with your mouse to see how changing these emission settings alter your signature.
Лена пишет, пиво со вкусом дедова хрена. Оу май. Такое я точно не пробовал.
If you didn't move too close to the enemy, you'll notice
Хорошее,
the
кстати,
yellow icon
название для
indicating
пива.
the ship is being tracked has disappeared.
Дедов хрен.
If you're still being tracked, it might be because your hull is at an angle that maximizes radar reflections. Even then, a lower signature size reduces the distance at which the enemy can detect you, even if you are well inside their maximum sensor range. Disabling emissions also has the added benefit of making you undetectable by passive sensors. Passive radar sensing is typically able to detect you 125% further away from your maximum radar range, so being invisible to it has an obvious benefit.
Леха пишет, я не увидел сисек. Каких сисек? Тут нету их.
The downside, of course, is
А
that
я
turning
еще не
off your
настолько
radar
пьян, чтобы их
means you can't
показывать.
detect threats as easily. Similarly, disabling comms means that the ship is no longer transmitting any tracks it sees to friendly ships in the fleet. Ships with their comms off will still be able to receive tracks from other transmitting ships, so they can act as a silent shooter.
Василий, все нормально, это наши шутейки, как бы. Эти ребята, это мои большие друзья. Вот.
Go ahead and re-enable both the radar and the communications on the small beginnings.
Его Слав рекомендует. Так, re-enable радар. Да, окей.
Now it's time to experience what having your sensors jammed feels like.
Так.
Enemy jam.
Confusing, right?
Ух. Офигеть, это джеминг такой. Хрен, блин, прицелишься.
The enemy jammer is saturating our radar with radio waves, making it difficult for our systems to find legitimate contacts. This noise of contacts is what we are seeing, instead of the real radar picture.
Ну, блин, жесткач.
Notice that we lost track of the ship in front of us, but the one on the right is still clear as day. This is because jamming only
Блин,
affects the
напишу,
area around the
летит.
direction that is being jammed. Keep this
Нечего
in mind when
показывать.
you're trying to use jamming to protect your own ships.
Нечего.
We do have a tool available that can be used in a pinch, the burn-through sweep. Not all radar modules have this, but allows for a short, high-powered sweep
Лена
in all
пишет,
directions.
большие в буквальном смысле, друзья. Мам Лена в деле. Да уж, что-то я сейчас сижу и думаю о пироге, который ты приготовила и не довезла нашей подруге. А нам вообще даже не подумала привезти.
To execute the burn-through sweep, open the action menu and select the BRN or burn-through command on the top. Then, as quickly as you can, attempt to lock the target. You can use the X key for the lock-on shortcut.
Так, use. А, блин, все понял.
Maybe a different way, Commander? Can't do that, Commander. Locking them up.
Burn-through sweeps will show a unique icon for detected targets, making it easier to spot the target through the noise. The icon will linger for about 30 seconds to give you time to lock on. Locked targets are much less susceptible to being lost through jamming.
Так, ну я же залочил.
Awaiting orders, Commander. Locking them up.
Use burn sweep to lock the target with NS. Да, все. Залочили.
That's it. Most of the time you'll be able to maintain a fire control lock in spite of jamming. But keep in mind that jamming power stacks, so a fleet with enough jammers active at the same time will break any lock. Because burn-through sweeps use a much higher power output, they also have the added benefit of being able to spot smaller, weaker contacts at a greater range. This is useful for finding small scout ships or approaching missiles. The downside is that the higher power output runs the risk of causing damage to the amplifiers every time you use it, so be careful not to burn out your radars.
Так, Лена пишет, не смотришь сторис, не клянчишь пирог, не получаешь пирог. Правда, в своем остатке все равно не получаешь пирог, потому что надо приезжать на пирог.
Your other option for burning through jamming is
Ладно,
simply to get
возьму на
closer to the
заметку.
enemy, brute forcing your way in. Just try not to get sunk in the process.
О,
Jamming the enemy ourselves can be as easy as right-clicking their track and selecting our jammers with the EW weapons menu. However, these targets are far enough apart that they won't both be covered by the cone centered on only one of them.
Standing by.
The ANS Dusty Tome is carrying a blanket radar jammer. We'll use that to jam both targets by catching them both in the
Так, да,
jammer's
есть
cone
он.
of effect by targeting a position between both contacts. You can target a weapon on a position in space by opening the action menu by right-clicking in open space instead of on a track, and use the sphere widget to target a position between the two contacts. Remember to use the tactical view as it will give you precise bearings for positional targeting. When in the tactical view, you'll see each track's position projected onto the sphere of the widget. To blind both of them, aim for a point between those two projected positions. Remember that you can change the radius of the widget by holding left control and drawing the radius in or out.
Так, jump was target with an S-destined white jammer.
Commence jamming. Commence jamming.
Ой, так, нет, стоп.
Jammer online.
Так, как мне их вместе заджамить?
Buzzer active. Jammer online.
Jump was target with an S-destined. А вот сейчас мы.
Jammer's hot.
And like that, they
Всё,
can't see us
попал.
anymore, just like what happened to us. But they can also use the same tactics like burn-throughs or approaching us to sift through the jamming. Even if you don't successfully jam the enemy's tracking of your ships, an active jamming signal will still reduce their sensor accuracy. This is particularly devastating for point defenses, which are shooting at very small, very fast targets and therefore require great accuracy. Using standoff jamming in coordination with your missile salvos will make them devastatingly effective. Let's try it. Fire off the missile salvo at the enemy ship ahead, and see how their defenses react with your jammer active.
Cover your missile attack with jammer, окей.
Standing by. Jammer's hot. Send your traffic.
Так.
Missile away. Send your traffic.
Watch how erratically the enemy defenses are firing. Point defense requires pinpoint precision, which your jamming is preventing by flooding their sensors with far too many false contacts.
Ага, point defense работает, смотрите. Блин, джаммер-то какого хера не работает?
When using jamming to cover a missile attack, you'll still need to watch out for airburst point defenses like flak guns, as they don't require much accuracy. Most importantly, the blanket jammer has a 90-second firing time. This is to prevent the amplifiers from overheating and being damaged. However, there are times where you absolutely have to be able to use the system, or you'll lose the ship. In that case, you might not care whether the module destroys itself. This is what Battle Short is for. Select the ANS Dusty Tome if it isn't already. This is the toggle for the Battle Short mode. When this is on, all equipment safeties are disabled, and the equipment will continue to run until it destroys itself. Reserve it for emergency use, or you'll hear an endless litany of profanity from the damage control officer. When Battle Short is enabled, active components with active duration timers will periodically be damaged. However, they will only begin taking damage when they exceed their normal firing time. One last thing to note is that most electronic warfare modules are single-cycle systems. That means they won't repeatedly fire on the same target after their cooldown period. You'll need to designate a new target every time the system comes off cooldown. Jamming is an extremely powerful tactic when used at the right time. Use it to cover your retreat, confuse enemy fire, cover your missiles, and anything else you can think of.
Что-то не очень у меня получилось, кстати.
It's jamming.
Не очень получилось.
Ready. Buzzer active.
With that out of the way, that should do it for sensors and E-War.
О,
I hope
так.
I made it easy to follow, because the guidebooks on these are nightmarish. I'll see you back at the academy.
Launching missiles.
Так, ну-ка, успеем. Круто на самом деле выглядит. Так, ну что? Point Defense работает? Эх! Не особо получилось, ну ладно. Advanced Maneuver и Advanced Missile Tactic. Ну давайте, погнали. Сегодня, блин, прям день обучения. Кстати, как меня слышно вообще? Скажите, нормально, ненормально? А то все пытаюсь понять, хорошо сейчас все расположено в плане микрофона или нет. Так,
Space is
давайте.
vast, Commander. There's usually no cover, and if you're lucky, you can see a threat coming kilometers away. Knowing how to move your ship is one thing, but knowing the right maneuver will make sure you come out on top. You can definitely make it out of a fight in one piece without using advanced maneuvers, but you'll see quite a good drop in repairs if you employ them correctly. Before we get started, let's order the Dusty Tome to enter formation with the small beginnings, so we can see how these commands affect other ships in the formation when issued to the guide ship.
Send traffic.
Order Dusty.
Ready.
Ага. Так, да здесь туси.
I command.
Now let's try our first new command. Select the ANS Dusty Tome and open the action menu.
Receiving. Send traffic.
Так, now let's try our first new command. Select Dusty Tome and open action menu.
Awaiting orders, Commander.
All of the commands we'll learn about in this lesson can be found under the Move submenu.
Так, окей.
The ALD, or Assume Lead command, will cause the formation that this ship is in to restructure itself with the selected ship as the new guide ship. Issue this order now.
Aye aye, forming on guard.
It's not uncommon for the guide of
он
the
теперь
formation
главный.
to come under
Всё,
fire
понял.
first, as it's usually the most important ship, making it a prime target. Should it become disabled, its escorts will hold position around it. Sometimes you want them to hold the line, but there's other times that you need to sacrifice that disabled ship to save the others.
Так.
When you have a large formation, the Assume Lead command will save you precious time reorganizing the formation around a new ship that can lead the survivors to safety. It's a lifesaver, literally. Since the Dusty Tome is the guide now, let's keep it selected and start covering the rest of the orders. Open the action menu and the Move submenu. We'll first cover the ORB, or Orbit command. This command is useful for keeping your ships moving continuously around a target without having to make hard direction changes constantly. Select it now, but don't issue the order yet.
Так, орбита, на которой наши корабли будут от него крутиться. Хм.
Heading there now, Commander.
Все, полетели.
Reporting.
Медленно, наверное. Так, пиво, Василий Мазур пишет, пиво Ковен, Блади Рутс, запах помидоров, рассол, хрен, он приятный, соль мягкая, легкая острота. Слушай, что-то знакомое. Ковен. Возможно, даже пробовал все-таки. Блин, меня так смущает этот префикс НС. Кажется, что не хватает всего лишь одной буквы. Анус. Опа. Что это у нас? АНС. Снеки. Divide. Так, окей.
Ready.
Чем мы не так-то сделали?
Send your traffic.
О! Прошу прощения. Давай уже, давай. Накидывай. Ну что, мы уже почти на орбите. Крутая музыка все-таки в игре. Прям атмосферная.
Standing by.
No.
Ready.
Reporting.
Все легли на орбиту.
Send traffic. Send traffic.
Но что-то будет происходить, не будет.
Engaging target.
Давайте дадим залп. Сквозные, по ходу дела.
Ready.
Сейчас еще даст.
Standing by. Eyes on target.
Ок, залетает хорошо. Так, что надо сделать-то? Почему ничего дальше не происходит?
Awaiting orders, Commander.
Standing by.
Moving to that position.
Видимо, я что-то пропустил по маневрам.
Send traffic. On it.
Awaiting orders, Commander. Moving. Send your traffic.
Reporting. Lead on. Standing by.
Course laid in. Moving to that position.
Ох, блин. Че, коллизии нет, что ли?
Reporting.
Awaiting orders, Commander.
Блин, балет какой-то в космосе просто. Я не понимаю, что мне надо сделать. Слушайте, ну, видимо, придется выйти и еще раз запустить. Фу, блин.
Space is vast, Commander. There's usually no cover, and if you're lucky, you can see a threat coming kilometers away. Knowing how to move your ship is one thing. You can definitely make it out of a... Before we get started, let's order the Dusty Tome to enter formation with the small beginnings, so we can see how these commands affect other ships in the formation when issued to the guide ship. Now let's try our first new command. Select the ANS Dusty Tome and open the action menu. All of the commands we'll learn about in this lesson can be found under the Move submenu. The ALD, or Assume Lead command, will cause the formation that this ship is in to restructure itself with the selected ship as the new guide ship. Issue this order now.
Getting information.
It's not uncommon for the guide of the formation to come under fire first, as it's usually the most important ship, making it a prime target. Sometimes you want them to hold the line, but there's other times that you need to sacrifice that disabled ship to save the others. When you have a large formation, the Assume Lead command will save you precious time reorganizing the formation around a new ship that can lead the survivors to safety. It's a lifesaver, literally. Since the Dusty Tome is the guide now, let's keep it selected and start covering the rest of the orders. Open the Action menu in the Move submenu. We'll first cover the ORB, or Orbit command.
Так.
This command is useful for keeping your ships moving continuously around a target without having to make hard direction changes constantly. Select it now, but don't issue the order yet. This is a two-stage command, just like the formations.
Вон.
The first task is to select the orbit anchor, or the position the ships will travel around. Let's set our anchor near the enemy target. Once you have selected the orbit anchor, we'll determine the radius and the angle of the orbit. Notice that when you change the angle of the sphere widget, a dotted line now appears. The dotted line denotes the actual path that the ships will follow. The arrow near your cursor denotes the direction that they will follow along the path. This is determined by the side of the sphere your cursor is on relative to your ship. Go ahead and issue the order now. Make sure there are no obstacles in the path. The circle will turn red if the ship might hit something in its orbit.
We're on the way, Commander.
If you want, you can open fire on the target you're orbiting to see how your guns will behave. The real utility of the orbit command is that it keeps your ships moving while keeping a side facing the target on the inside, allowing most weapons a good angle at the target. If you just drive a course, you'll eventually have to turn your ships around, or you'll lose the target behind an obstacle, or just slowly start to mask certain weapons as the angle increases. This will cost you valuable time while the turrets swing around. Orbits help prevent this. The downside, of course, is that your ships will be exposing the same armor to the enemy constantly, allowing them to whittle it down before they lay in heavy munitions. You'll also be presenting a good angle for radar returns, meaning you might be an easier target. You can orbit this target as long as you like, and play with the weapons. When you're ready, issue a drive course order to get our ships heading off into open space, so we can try the remaining commands.
Так, issue drive course order.
Halt. Aye, aye. We're on the way.
Issue drive course order. Так.
Aye, aye.
Alright, 2 more commands to cover. Both are very situational, but you'll be glad you've got them in your tool belt. Better to have it than not have it at all. Open the Action menu to the Move submenu, and locate the HDG, or Heading command.
Будь здорова.
The distance you draw the sphere widget out to doesn't matter here, as we're picking a direction instead of a position. Select a direction that is different from the course the formation is currently driving.
We'll get it done.
Notice how the entire formation is turning to face that direction, but continue to move along in its ordered course. A modified movement order like this is indicated with a blue box around the movement status icon. Normally your ships will turn into any course they are following, as this allows them to use their main engines and provides the best acceleration. However, when withdrawing under fire, this can expose the main engines, and especially the drive module in the reactor, directly to enemy fire. The hold heading order is useful to keeping the bow pointed towards the enemy, protecting your most vital components during retreat. To cancel a hold heading, as well as the next command we'll talk about, use the CLR or clear command under the move submenu. Clear the heading hold now. The last command we'll cover is the ROL, or roll command. We'll do this for the ANS small beginnings this time. Select the ship and select the order now.
Send your traffic.
The roll command will allow you to select a new direction for the ship to use as its up direction. Move the mouse around the widget and click the left mouse button to select a new up direction.
Aye aye.
Ordering a ship to roll may seem trivial, but like I've said, your radar panels may get taken out by enemy fire. If this is a scout or a spotting ship and it needs to provide targeting data right now, rolling the ship over to expose the functioning panels may be necessary. Also notice that the small beginnings rolled independently of the guide ship, but is still keeping formation. A roll order can also be cancelled with the clear command. And that's it. It may seem simple, but if you use any of these little tricks right, you'll start seeing a difference. I'll see you at the academy.
Aye aye, Commander. We're moving.
Standing by. Aye aye, forming up.
At the ready, Commander. Firing a missile.
Так. Напоследок запущу пару ракет. Да, походу дела, сегодня до боя так и не дойдем. Ну ничего страшного. Значит, на неделе еще поиграем. До выхода Total War 3 есть время. Так что можем повеселиться. Так, что тут? У нас уже теперь 3 корабля. Угу. Последняя обучалочка.
Out here in the cold void, missiles are like diamonds. They're valuable and scarce, and you won't be able to refill your cells under most circumstances. Unless you want to wind up with empty launchers while your enemy is fully stocked, you'll need to learn how and when to use them. You can always come back here to practice with missiles, but I can also give you a rundown of what you can throw downrange.
Так.
You want to take the reins and practice, or would you like me to guide you through it? I've got plenty of time.
Так, ну давайте практику.
You got it. I'll lock your fire control. The 3 ships with you are stocked up with missiles, and the targets won't fire back. They do have point defenses though, so feel free to think up ways to get around that. When you're done, just head back to the academy.
Ага. Есть оборона.
Orders.
Чем у нас вооружены?
Reporting.
Так, ланчер.
Send your traffic.
Send traffic. Aye aye, jamming.
Так, отлично.
Receiving. Solution locked in. Preparing to launch.
Missile on the way.
Блин, ну что, ничего не долетит, что ли? Опа. Так, что они не возвращаются, что ли? Хоть дела нет.
Awaiting orders, Commander. Engaging.
Красота, как она насквозь пробивает.
Send traffic.
Ready.
Standing by. Blinding them. Standing by. Preparing to launch.
Так, что получится?
Send traffic.
Это что такое? Ох, ё! Есть. Мимо. Ой, хорошо. Ой. Блин, жесть, конечно.
Receiving.
Так, электронику
Jammer
расширяют.
engaged. Standing by. Jamming engaged. Ready. Guidance online. Send traffic. Receiving. Preparing to launch.
Ой, хорошо. Еще. Ой, его аж прям развернуло. Походу дела все.
Send your traffic. Firing on that target.
Standing by. Engage jamming.
Так, надо их опять подсветить.
Send your traffic.
Send traffic. Send traffic.
Так, ну, светим, светим.
Solution locked in. Reporting. Missile away. Missile supply running low.
Missile tube clear. They're gonna learn today.
Так, ну этот вообще, по ходу дела, потерял уже.
Reporting. Launch confirmed. Missile reserves low. Launch confirmed.
А можно, кстати, наверное...
Receiving.
Можно, наверное, даже и поближе подойти.
Lead on. Aye, aye. Falling in.
Course laid in.
Ой.
Heading there now, Commander.
Так, что там еще Василий написал? Написал то, что Ковен awaits томатом, хреном, специями чипотле. Интересно. Также чуть бы подлиннее было бы как из Вавилона 5. Не очень понял, про что, наверное, про корабли. Да, сейчас только такие игры дают, хардкор. Похоже на хайфлит в сложности. Ну да, игра выглядит очень сложной, но при этом, блин, жутко красивой и интересной. Так.
Standing by.
Давай тоже дадим по ним.
Yeah, we see them.
They're gonna learn today.
Так, огонь.
Receiving. Launch confirmed.
Что-то все не помирает этот корабль. Но управление явно потеряно. Ну что будет, крит, не будет.
Awaiting orders, Commander. Stopping the ship.
Ой, слишком близко, конечно. Если сейчас рванет, нас накроет.
Firing on that target.
Yeah, we see them.
Василий Мазур пишет, что я в какую-то стратегию играл, которая в нашей Солнечной системе происходит. Планеты там реально огромные, корабли в мега флотилии не соберешь. Чисто тактические группы надо собирать. Я так и не понял, как. Чё-то у меня даже в голову ничто не приходит. Что это может за игра быть? Так, говорит, не понял, как играть. Начинал вроде где-то возле Марса. Так, ну тут, видимо, это бесконечное. Ёлы-палы, тут еще были где-то корабли. И этого я не увидел. И нам не засчитали. Ну, зашибись. Но я думаю, на этой замечательной ноте мы все-таки завершим. Завершим этот первый стрим в этой игре. Так, кстати. Что по серверам ради интереса? Слушайте, ну... В общем, много серверов, есть с кем поиграть. Круто. Так, компании пока что нет, есть только туториал. Скирмиш. Угу. Вот созданные флотилии уже. Прошу прощения. Но я думаю, на следующих стримах по этой игре мы будем уже свою собирать флотилию. Shop, no fleet selected. Прям надо будет собрать свое что-то. Так. Комп играет, да? Ну-ка, что стартовые фрегаты? Так, один прям куча крупного калибра. Так, PDT Point Defense. Угу. Это Блубрук. Райнер класс фрегат. Так, это у нас что? Лаунчеры. И джаммер. Угу. И третий 4 просто пушки. Так, а за 3 нам что предлагают? Радар. Джаммер. Еще один джаммер. Корабль явно борьбы. Электронной борьбы. Так, что здесь? Здесь пушки. Аурора ПДТ. Так, это опять защита. Бим Кэннон, это с носа. Тут огромный лазер. Лаунчеры. А, ну все понятно. Все остальные как бы одинаковые. ТФ Бридж. Так, 3 легких крейсера. 4 орудия. Point Defense. Лончеры. На, ну одинаковые. Тоже выглядит интересно. А это что такое ТФ Лак? Ту Бранк. А это тяжелые крейсера. О, вот это я понимаю по орудиям. Правда, никакой тебе борьбы электронной. Снайпер Spotted Group. Так, тяжелые крейсера, корветы. Ну, блин, тут рейлган есть. Прям интересно. А это что? Тяжелый крейсер, тоже интересно вооружен. Фрегат. Так, ракетный. Ракетный. Дестройер один. Тоже такой. Блин, ну я думаю, да, в следующий раз зарубимся. И вообще, если, ребята, если кто-то приобретет сеть проект, а я только за то, чтобы поддержали разработчика, цена не такая высокая, сможем по сети поиграть. Что ж, с вами был я, генерал-адмирал, фабрикатор, инквизитор и прочие бесконечные и бесполезные титулы Сочный. Это канал Синего Волка. Подписывайтесь на наш канал в Ютубе, в Твиче, в ВКонтакте, в Стиме, в Дискорде. Там поиграть можно вместе. И что, до новых встреч, спокойной ночи и отличного вам понедельника. На неделе еще увидимся и обязательно в этой игре тоже. Я думаю. Если не произойдет форс-мажора. Все. Пока.